are the essential steps for summarizing an illustration? The first step is to recognize the format as it determines how you will interpret the data. Ask yourself, is this a table, a chart, or what type of graphs is it? Once you know the type, determine what the illustration is intended to communicate. You need to capture the main idea or message in the illustration. For a process diagram, the purpose is to show the sequence leading to a final result. For a comparison chart, the purpose is to show the relationship or differences and similarities between subjects. For change over time graph, the purpose is to show the primary trend, increase, decrease, fluctuation, or stability. A good summary is selective, so focus on the most salient information that supports the main purpose identified in step 2. Identify, for example, the highest and lowest points on a graph. Note the most significant differences between two subjects. Identify the initial and final stages of a process, for example, or you might also look for any exceptions to the overall trend. To ensure a smooth and coherent summary, cluster related data points together. Avoid jumping back and forth between subjects or trends. Instead of writing about the 2005 sales peak, then the 1990 decline, and then the 2010 peak, group the major peaks together and the major declines together to make it clearer and have a logical flow. For a comparison, discuss, for example, all points related to subject A's cost, then all points related to subject B's cost. Now, ignore small details. Resist the urge to mention every piece of data in the illustration. Your summary should be brief and high level. Now, organize logically. The sequence of your sentences must match the internal logic of illustration. Use a structure that mirrors the visual flow. Process diagram, use chronological order using first, next, then, after that, finally. Comparison and contrast chart, use a whole by whole or point by point structure. For change over time, follow timeline. Start with the initial point, followed by the rise, the decline, the stability, whatever shown on the illustration. Step 7, which is the final step, use precise, objective, and analytical language suitable for technical or academic writing. For example, you can employ strong comparative and transitional verbs and adverbs, like, for example, increased sharply, decreased dramatically, remained stable, fluctuated significantly. For relationships, you can use connectors to show similarities and differences. We learned last time. In contrast, similarly, like, and like. You can also use consequently, notably, primary, due to, etc. Maintain a formal tone and avoid personal interpretations because this is technical writing. Do not write, for example, I think that the table shows, unless the prompt specifically asks you for analysis. If we ask you to say what you think, that would be fine. If not, we don't need it. Always include the units of measurements and specific time frames mentioned in the illustration to make it easier for the reader to follow you through the illustration. Let me remind you of some useful expressions for summarizing using technical English. In order to introduce the illustration and start your paragraph, you might use the following expressions. The diagram illustrates, and you write what is the topic of the diagram, for example. The table presents data on, and you write the topic also. So we can say you name the type of illustration and then you use one of the verbs. The diagram illustrates, the table presents data on, the graph shows changes in. If you want to highlight key features, you might use overall. It can be seen that the most significant feature is, or the least significant result is, so you show a point whether it is the most or the least. Another important point is when you make comparisons and contrasts, you can use connectors that we discussed last time, like in contrast to A, B shows X is higher than Y, or Y is lower than X. So here we are using comparatives of adjectives or adverbs. Unlike A, B demonstrates. Like A, B demonstrates. It's either comparison or contrast. You might find the whole list of comparison connectors and contrast connectors in the previous lesson. When we describe a process or change over time, we use the expression the process begins with. Over the period, X increased steadily. You're describing here change over time. The final stage involves, and you write, you find other connectors for organizing your process in the describing a process lesson. Let's wrap up our lesson in brief and start. Summarizing an illustration is to explain main features of a table, a graph, chart, or diagram briefly. So you have to focus on the main features. Focus on key points, not every detail. You have to eliminate additional information. The type of illustration indicates the type of the paragraph you are supposed to write. Comparison or contrast, process or change over time. Identify the purpose, select main trends or stages, group related information, ignore small details, organize from general to specific or use clear academic English. These are the steps of writing a summary about an illustration. You can also use some useful phrases in technical English like the graph shows. Overall, it can be seen that, in contrast to, the process begins with, the process ends with, and other similar expressions. With that, we reach the final lesson of our course. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.